Hello everybody, my name is Austin, and this is the first video in my Intro to Programming series, where I'll be showing you how to develop a basic console app that will help you get your feet off the ground and into the world of coding. With that being said, first we need to determine the language we'll be using to develop this console app. There are many languages that we can choose from. That includes Java, JavaScript, PHP, and so on, but we'll be using C# for this series. C# is a multi-purpose language that's used to develop mobile, web, and desktop apps. With C#, we'll also be using .NET Core, which is a framework from Microsoft that provides a lot of essential libraries that we need to develop our app. We'll also need a way to type our C# code, and we can use a text editor or we can use an IDE. An IDE is an integrated development environment, which is a lot more powerful than a text editor, and there are a couple choices I have in mind. One is Writer by JetBrains, which is an excellent IDE, but it's not free to use. The second is Visual Studio Community from Microsoft, and it is free to use. So Visual Studio Community is what we'll be using in this series. This video will be primarily focused on developing on Windows because that's what I'm using on my development environment. So why don't we go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how to download these apps, install them, and get them configured on your system. Now that we're on the desktop, you're going to open a web browser and navigate to .net, which will take you to Microsoft's .net portal, where we can hit the download button to go to the downloads page. And when you scroll down, you'll see that Windows is selected already because that's what I'm running this web browser on. And you'll see a section for .net Core. One thing that I'd like to note is that for this series, we'll be using .NET Core 3.1. There are also subsequent builds under 3.1. The current one is build 301. So if by the time that this video is released, there is a build 302 or 310, you can use that as well. What's important is that the major and minor number matches the one that we'll be coding with for this series. Down below, you can see a couple versions of .NET Core you can get. The first is the runtime, which is good if you are only running an app built with .NET Core, but you're not developing an app with it. We are developing an app with .NET Core, so you're going to want the SDK version. And the SDK stands for Software Development Kit. So go ahead and download that one and run the installer. Once you're done downloading .NET Core, we'll navigate to visualstudio.microsoft.com, or you can just search it up online. And on the left, you'll see Visual Studio, and it says Full-Featured IDE. This is the one we want. And specifically, we'll be using the Community 2019 edition because it's free to use. When you start the Visual Studio installer, it'll ask you to go through the privacy. So go ahead and do that if you want, and then hit continue. And then it's going to download the files it needs to install it. Once that's done loading, it will pull up this menu that will let you select various workloads depending on the type of development you're doing, whether it be web, desktop, or mobile. For this series, we'll only be needing .NET desktop development to build our console app, but I also like to select ASP.NET and web development because that's what I'll be showing you in a future series. And I also like to select .NET Core cross-platform development on the bottom. If there's anything else that interests you, feel free to select it as well, and then click Install. When that's done installing, it's going to ask you to log into your Microsoft account, which will let you use your Azure credits, publish code to a private Git repository, and sync your settings. But this is an optional step, so if you don't want to do it, you can click Not Now, maybe later. The IDE will work just the same for our purposes. After that, it'll show you a quick menu screen where you can choose to open an existing project or create a new one, which is what we'll be doing in the next video. So in this video, I showed you how to get .NET Core and Visual Studio Community installed and set up on your system. In the next video, I'll show you how to create the very first project for the console app. If you like what you saw, please hit the subscribe button below to stay tuned for more updates. Feel free to leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and thank you for watching.